I'm non-zero sum James, your companion on this exploration of win-win games. Evil globalisation, and how it is eliminating poverty. In the 90s, the term sweatshops re-entered the vernacular in a big way, an ugly feature of a burgeoning global economy. Companies like Nike and Reebok were slated for their exploitation of cheap labour in countries with poor working conditions, all the while selling shoes for $200. Satirically noted by the Flight of the Conchords, but what's the real cost? Because the sneakers don't seem that much cheaper. There was an understandable uproar from liberal voices in the population and media, and it was this picture of evil sweatshops that, for a long time, comprised my perspective of globalisation. Then something peculiar happened. While all this negativity was going on, global inequality, which had been steadily growing for decades, began to reverse. The Gini index, a measure of the prevalence of inequality in the world, draws an optimistic picture, a picture you can see in the icon for this episode. It turned out that all this exploitative behaviour was, over time, slowly funneling wealth from rich countries to the developing world, and driving an industrial boom in countries such as China, India, Bangladesh, and Korea. This funnel, however imperfect, was and still is reducing global income inequality dramatically to a level not seen since the end of the 19th century, and with it driving down extreme poverty. An unholy alliance. The lack of media attention on such benefits and the enduring image of sweatshop workers has left many liberals with an impression of globalisation as a wholly negative project. Meanwhile, working class people on the right became aware of the detrimental effect globalisation had on their livelihood as they lost jobs to cheaper overseas manufacturing. This forged an unlikely alliance of leftists and working class conservatives against the blight of globalisation, leaving a vulnerability for populists and demagogues to exploit. So we had leftists on one side saying globalisation sucks because poor foreigners are being exploited, and then on the right we had, yeah, down with globalisation because greedy foreigners will take my job. What does this mean? Now it's a strange one because it comes with an ambiguous lesson. Do we take from this that unfettered exploitation leads to greater equality? And does this mean that activism against exploitation is actually counterproductive? No. First, let's break it down. Where is the prosperity coming from? Is it coming from the exploitation or from the resulting exchange of capital for labour? It's coming from the exchange. So, in short, exploitation is not necessary. For both parties, capital and labour, to agree to an arrangement, it must be mutually advantageous, so it can't be absolutely exploitative. The issue of exploitation therefore concerns the relative advantage and payoff for both parties, where the more powerful party, capital, can force an arrangement with vast advantages for itself and the smallest marginal gains for the other, labour. This arrangement, rather than lifting those providing the labour out of poverty, would hold them in a perpetual master-slave relationship. Is activism for workers' rights counterproductive? Not at all. If we, the activist consumer, demand worker protections and fair wages, we address the balance in the distribution of gains in favour of the workers, while still maintaining a situation that is positive sum, advantageous to both labour and capital. It turns out that this is exactly what happened. Although the media largely ignored the resulting actions of companies like Nike and Reebok to address the negative aspects of cheap labour, this included audits, minimum wages, and minimum age requirements. Activism in this case appears to be an example of a self-defeating prophecy. A self-defeating prophecy is when someone's warnings about something bad happening in the future leads to changes that end up preventing that bad outcome, leading some to say that the warnings were mistaken because what they warned about didn't eventuate. So, in successfully augmenting market forces towards a positive result, activism contributes to a picture of a free market naturally adapting and creating that positive result. This can leave people claiming that the activism was unnecessary when it was in fact instrumental. I get the same in my day job as a documentary editor. If I do my job well, the audience will assume the story told itself. So, 2 takeaways from this exploration. 1. Even at its worst, globalization can have positive effects. And 2, the benefits of globalization do not preclude the need for rights advocacy. Like any system, globalization has its problems, like the pollution associated with excessive production and transport of goods around the globe, and the continuing asymmetry of human rights. But while this is true, it's important to remember that the combination of global trade with rights advocacy yields significant gains for the most vulnerable around the world. Addressing global inequality in this way not only lifts people out of poverty, but it also promotes interdependence rather than division, which is vital to tackling the global issues we face.